This video is about chapter 5 of Mice and Men. The second climax of the novel takes place in this chapter. It is the killing of Curley's wife by Lennie. We've been building towards it, and here it happens. We're going to talk about the setting, which is the barn, the sense of tragic inevitability, Curley's wife and Lennie talking, the killing itself, the description of Curley's wife in death, and the response of other characters to her death. And we're going to blend together themes and character analysis whilst we do this. So the setting is the barn. We haven't been in this location on the ranch before, but we're here now because that's where Lennie and Curley's wife meet. He's got the dog there, which he's accidentally killed as well. It's where the horses live. Other dogs come in and out. It's got flies in it, birds flying around. And so it is really the location which is most animal in the whole novel. And that really makes sense for this to be the scene of the killing. It makes it seem as if the killing is a complete act of animal impulse, which it is. We can hear the sound of the halter chains rattling just as they were in chapter 4, again here symbolising this entrapment, this inescapability of the misery of life. The drama, the sense of inevitability is built up right from the start of the chapter. In there are flies buzzing around, which reminds us of rotting meat, which there is, of course, there's a dead dog, but it foreshadows the death to come as well. There's also, throughout this chapter, the sounds of the men playing, encouraging, jeering. These sounds of these aggressive men nearby, the clinking of the horseshoe on the peg in the game they're playing outside is a loud and aggressive sound. So there's this ominous threat of other men around. The chapter begins with Lennie in there. He's sad. He's accidentally killed his new pet dog. Oh no. And he's really kind of feeling bad about it. But in the reader's mind, we're thinking, hang on a minute. We've been introduced to this man. He pets mice and he kills them. Now he's petted his dog to death. What's next? He's getting larger in the size of the things that he accidentally kills. So we seem to be moving towards him killing something even larger than a dog. And the way he responds to the killing of his dog is really worrying as well, incredibly childish. On the one hand, he's kind of sad and upset, but then he oscillates between that and outbursts of violence in which he flings the body of the dead dog across the barn. And you think, whoa, that is a very childish response from an enormously strong and powerful man. So again, we're thinking, something dangerous can happen with him here. Lennie's inability to accept responsibility for what he's done here is another sign that this is a man who really is out of control of his body and his mind, and anything can happen with him. Look at the way he blames the dog for dying.
Why'd you gotta get killed? You ain't so little as mice. I didn't bounce you hard. Now maybe George ain't gonna let me tend no rabbits if he finds out you got killed.
He uses the passive verb forms, get killed, got killed. He doesn't accept that he was the one who did the killing. He can't even see that. He's so childish. And again, he thinks about his bad behaviour in terms of punishment, in terms of not being allowed to tend the rabbits. So we see a real child inside a man's body, and that builds it even more towards this tragic conclusion. In comes Curley's wife. She is wearing red, symbolising danger, reminding readers of Lennie in Weed. Remember, he grabbed onto the dress of a girl wearing red. So the danger signs are flashing here, and also their flirtation, which has been going on pretty much since the first moment he laid eyes on her and she responded to him, is reaching ahead, isn't it? Because this is the first time where they're alone together. So all the signals are there for the reader. What's going to happen when these two characters meet together with nobody else there? It's a very dramatic moment. And in this Darwinian animalistic environment, we move inexorably towards the only obvious outcome that could happen. Curley's wife walks in. Lennie doesn't want to talk to her. He remembers what George has told him, but she comes up with something she came up with in chapter 4.
Why can't I talk to you? I never get to talk to nobody. I get awful lonely. Well, I ain't supposed to talk to you or nothing. I get lonely. You can talk to people, but I can't talk to nobody but Curly, else he gets mad. How'd you like not to talk to anybody?
This is quite believable from her. She said it a few times. She's obviously there. She's so lonely. She wants to talk. This loneliness, in fact, is part of her downfall, because by coming close to Lennie, she's putting herself in danger, but she's so desperate for communication. She starts telling Lennie her backstory, which is fascinating for the reader, because we'd been wondering what she was saying before about wanting to be in the movies, and then her words tumbled out in a passion of communication, as though she hurried before her listener could be taken away. There, again, we see this desperation to talk. Passion is a word of great emotion, but also a word connected with suffering. So there's this kind of emotional suffering and desire to communicate. She tells us how she met an actor. She tells us how her mother wouldn't let her go. Another guy, she met someone who might have been a producer. He said he would write to her. She never got the letter. She thinks her mother took it away from her. And she says that that is a direct reason why she married Curley. So I married Curley, met him out to the Riverside Dance Palace that same night. She's put herself in this miserable relationship. Really, we feel quite sorry for her, and her whole backstory comes out here just before she dies. Steinbeck does this to create a sense of sympathy for this poor woman who wasn't able to make her dreams come true. Lennie, meanwhile, he's there. He's someone for her to talk to, but he's not really listening, is he? He's kind of caught up in his own mind. While she talks, he's thinking about the rabbits, and when she finishes, he says,
maybe if I took this pup out and throwed him away, George wouldn't never know, and then I could tend the rabbits without no trouble. Don't you think of nothing but rabbits? We're going to have a little place. We're going to have a house and a garden, a place for alfalfa, and that alfalfa is for the rabbits, and I take a sack and get it all full of alfalfa, and then I take it to the rabbits.
Steinbeck gives you these two characters really stuck in their own little worlds. There she is reminiscing, I could have been in the movies. There Lennie is being like, oh, will I get to tend the rabbits? And they're with each other, yes, but they're not listening to each other. There's just kind of desperately thinking through their difficulties. It reminds us of what Crooks said in chapter 4 about how it's so important to be with someone and to talk to them or to sit and not talk. It doesn't even matter if the other person is not listening. It's just being with someone that's so important. And Steinbeck shows you that here. They're clearly not listening to each other, but they're with each other. And that gives them the space to communicate with somebody. And again, Steinbeck shows us what people will do to escape their loneliness. They've got all these thoughts running through their heads. They just need to express them to someone. And that's really why they're there together. They've got nobody else to talk to. The only way that they do actually eventually meaningfully communicate properly with each other and not be stuck in their own heads is through touch. Steinbeck shows us this kind of necessity for physical, human, caring contact. Lennie moved cautiously close to her until he was right against her.
I like to pet nice things.
Initially, she moves away, but she actually quite likes the idea of this physical proximity. And eventually, it is she who took Lennie's hand and put it on her head. So both of them crave this caring physical contact. Again, Steinbeck is showing us this kind of absence of touch. The only touch we've really had in the novel has been violence. The punching fists of Curley, the crippling paw of Lennie. But now, for the first time, some caring touch, and they don't know how to handle it. This physical proximity moves us inevitably towards the denouement. So the killing of Curley's wife, here it is. It is presented as a complete accident and yet at the same time completely inevitable. He grabs hold of something nice. He likes to touch things. He's been grabbing hold of mice and dogs and killing them throughout the novel. Here he grabs hold of a red dress, just like he did in Weed. It's Weed, but worse. He grabs hold. She gets scared, just like the woman in Weed. When she gets scared, he panics. He doesn't know what to do. We've seen this time and again. He panicked with the woman in Weed. He panicked when he grabbed hold of Curley's fist. He holds tighter and tighter. He gets angry like he did with the dog. He starts telling her not to scream. And then he breaks her neck. She flops like a fish. Lennie has reduced both Curley and Curley's wife to the state of fish, victims of bears who get caught by bears and destroyed by bears. It's Darwinistic, it's animalistic, and it's also completely inevitable. There's a sense of it being a cycle. He's killed animals time and time again, and he's killed from mice up to dogs, and he's grabbed on a woman's dress before, and now it just seems like a logical conclusion. It's cyclical. She has flirted with men time and again, and now for the last time. These cyclical behaviours lead to these tragic consequences. And in fact, it's the inability to break free from cycles of behaviour, from cycles of happenings, that really makes characters suffer in this novel. And we'll see in chapter 6 that George actually is able to break free from cyclical behaviour. He does something different, something he's not done before, and he breaks the pattern, and that's quite heroic, but we'll get to that in chapter 6. For now, in chapter 5, just notice these cycles have progressed to the point of ultimately someone losing their life. Lennie moves off, and before any of the other characters come in, there's this moment of tranquility. Probably the most peaceful moment in the whole novel. And in this state of tranquility, Steinbeck describes the dead body of Curley's wife in a fascinating way. First of all, a pigeon flies through the barn. Pigeon is like a dove, really, a symbol of peace. It's one of the first animals mentioned in the novel that doesn't seem to be either a predator or a victim. It's this kind of peaceful symbol. And that sets the scene for the description that is to come. Curley's wife lay with a half covering of yellow hay, and the meanness and the plannings and the discontent and the ache for attention were all gone from her face. She was very pretty and simple, and her face was sweet and young. Now her rouged cheeks and her reddened lips made her seem alive and sleeping very lightly. The curls, tiny little sausages, were spread on the hay behind her head, and her lips were parted. As happens sometimes, a moment settled and hovered and remained for much more than a moment, and sound stopped and movement stopped for much, much more than a moment. Then gradually time awakened again and moved sluggishly on. The horses stamped on the other side of the feeding racks, and the halter chains clinked. Outside, the men's voices became louder and clearer. There she is. Look at the repetition of the and the meanness and the plannings and the discontent and the ache for attention. That listing with the repetition of and really shows you this kind of build-up of misery in her life, which is all gone now. There's a sense that she's happier in death, very pretty and simple, her face sweet and young. She's finally able to be that girl and not that flirtatious woman she's pretending to be in death. And Steinbeck chooses this moment to slow down and stop time. He wants to commemorate the end of her life. This is an important moment. It is actually her moment of happiness and peace. And Steinbeck wants to show you, really, through stopping time, how we should all pause and think and consider that, in fact, for some people, some marginalised characters like Curley's wife during the Great Depression, actually, death is more peaceful and better than life. As soon as time starts moving again, we hear the sound of the halter chains clinking, that entrapment, that inability to escape from this inevitable demise. What's left in the chapter is the way that all the male characters respond to Curley's wife's death, and they all respond in very different ways. And really, Steinbeck here is giving the reader the opportunity to think, what is the best, most humane way of responding to this kind of tragedy? We get 4 different examples of possible behaviour through Candy, through George, through Curley and through Slim, and we have to decide for ourselves which ones we think are the right ways. Candy is the one to discover the body first of all. He's misogynistically angry with her for dying and for therefore ruining the chance of his dream coming true. "You goddamn tramp," he said viciously. "You done it, didn't you? I suppose you're glad. Everybody knowed you'd mess things up. You wasn't no good. You ain't good now, you lousy tart." The misogyny here is really very disappointing for the reader. He places everything onto her. But he is also to be pitied. At the very end of the chapter, he's left in there alone with the dead body and realising that his dreams are not going to come true. Old Candy lay down in the hay and covered his eyes with his arm. He doesn't want to look. He doesn't want to see or acknowledge what's happened. George's response is very interesting. Pretty much as soon as he sees the dead body, he realises that he knew this was going to happen. "I should have knew," George said hopelessly. "I guess maybe way back in my head I did. And then, I think I knowed from the very first. I think I knowed we'd never do her. He used to like to hear about it so much I got to thinking maybe we would." He recognises that achieving the dream is all bound up with what's happened here with Lennie, and that really it was a fantasy all along. So there's real development here in George, and there's respect from the reader towards him for this. That's a much better response than Candy's response. And then he starts planning for what he has to do next. He gets his jacket on. He pulls his hat down over his eyes. He doesn't want the other men to see what he's thinking about or to see how he's feeling. And he tells Candy, "Okay, let's pretend that I wasn't here first, or they'll think I was involved." So he's plotting. He's already clearly got this plan in mind, which he will carry out in chapter 6, which we'll talk about when we get there. So he feels this was inevitable. Now what am I going to do? He plans for action. He's very different to Candy, who just stays there and lies down and covers his eyes. George is actually doing something with the results of what's happened here. So that's kind of an action, and it's heroic of him. Curley, how does he respond to his wife's death? This is the first time in the novel we've seen them together in the same space. They keep on appearing in the bunkhouse door and disappearing, but they've never coincided. Isn't it interesting how they're only able to come together once she's dead? And what does he do? Does he sit there? Does he cradle her head? Does he kiss her? Does he cry? No! He just wants to go and get his revenge. It is Slim who kneels down to touch her, and when Slim confirms that she's dead, Curley came suddenly to life. "I know who done it. That big son of a bitch done it. I know who done it. While everybody else was out there playing horseshoes, he worked himself into a fury. I'm gonna get him. I'm going for my shotgun. I killed a big son of a bitch myself." All he's thinking about is the next violent act. He doesn't have any care or love in his heart. He doesn't stop to even think about her. Slim says to him, "Curley, maybe you better stay here with your wife." Curley's face reddened. "I'm going," he said. "I'm going to shoot the guts out of that big bastard myself. Even if I only got one hand, I'm going to get him." All he cares about is being the alpha male. He wants to dominate Lennie and get him back. This is his chance to do so. He doesn't spare a thought for his wife. So to the reader, he is an incredibly egocentric, animalistic and horrifying character. He is not the way to be. Then we've got Slim. He just recognises exactly what's happened. He's kind and soft and gentle with George, and he talks it through. The companion for George in this difficult moment, really. So all of these different responses, Candy, Curley, George, Slim, force the reader to consider what is the correct, what is the humane behaviour in a situation like this. And we're left reflecting that George's behaviour, Slim's behaviour, that is how we wish we would behave in such a situation. Not like Candy apportioning blame, not like Curley looking to perpetuate violence. The chapter ends with the chains rattling. The barn was darkening gradually, and in their stalls the horses shifted their feet and rattled the halter chains. Again, this entrapment. The dream is well and truly destroyed. The chains won't let anyone escape. And this time it's Curley's wife and it's Candy who are the victims, the dead and the living who has to go on with no dream. Please do give my video a like. Let me know what you think of it in the comments. If you like particular aspects of it or think things could be changed, do let me know in the comments. I read them, I will respond to you, and I like to know what I can do well and what I can do differently. And please subscribe to my channel so that you know when the next video is coming, which is going to be about the final chapter of Mice and Men.